Are you guys a new player in Reverse 1999 and want to know how to level up your characters quickly? Well, I'm going to show you all the different methods of doing that today. Some of them might be obvious, some of them might be less obvious, and I'm going to show you in a way you can do it, basically in a way that you're not going to be wasting your stamina. So if you guys find today's video helpful, consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel as well. If you're new, please subscribe, it'd be really helpful because I'm really close to 1,000 subscribers and I kind of want to get there. Anyways, let's jump straight into things, so stick around for the video if you want to find out all the information of ways to do this. First things first, you need to figure out what characters you want to build on your team. I have a team building guide video if you want to check that out in a little bit more detail. It's a pretty quick video. It's pretty simple in this game. But the main takeaway is basically you want to be eventually working towards the end game, which is going to be building 2 teams basically. And you want to focus on 3 different, even though there's 4-person teams, you want to focus on 3 for each and 3 for each. So that 4th unit on each team can come a lot later. But basically the oversimplified way of doing this, the way you want to team build is you want to have 2 DPS, 2 supports, and 2 healers, or 2 of that kind of thing, that methodology. And the way you want to do this is you want to choose your 2 DPS first. For example, at the moment, I'm building Lilia and Melania. I have Rivers as well. I'm kind of stopping on that. I'm building her for the moment. You want to kind of have 2 DPSs of 2 different elemental types. What are the elemental types? Well, there's essentially a few of them in the game. There's Star, Beast, Plant, Mineral, and I don't think I have, I do. I forget what this one's called. Hold on. Spirit. So yeah, and then there's also Intelligence. So you want to have 2 different DPS units of 2 different types. And then after you've chosen your DPSs, you also want to kind of, if you can, this is not a requirement because obviously we don't have the thing. The most important thing is going to be the element, 2 different element types, but if it's possible as well, find 2 different characters that do one of the 2 different damage types each. For example, having a reality damage dealer and a mental damage dealer is what you want to try and do. The reason why you want to do this is certain enemies will have less mental defense or less reality defense, or the same amount of equal amounts of each. So you want to try and exploit that whenever you can. So let's, for example, just go into a stage and I'll show you what I'm talking about with the stat thing. If you ever want to check this, you can check this very easily. Basically just come here into the stage, click this thing, and then we can on this, and it's going to show us what their ranking of their defense is. As you can see, this guy's equal in both, so it's not going to benefit us there. But sometimes, this is actually not the best example of a stage. They're all equal in this one, but sometimes certain enemies will have less or more of a certain defense stat. Sorry if you guys could hear that dog just then. Let's try this one as a better example. Okay, let's see. Okay, never mind. All of the enemies in this event just seem to have the flat defenses of both equal amounts. Trust me, in certain things, certain enemies will have less or more of a certain defense type, but it's also important because what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to build your supports around this damage type too. For example, my Lilia does reality damage. I'm running Beacon, who is probably the best support for reality DPSs at the moment. The reason why is she has, where are we? On her debuff skill, reduces the reality defense of all enemies. This is very big, basically just meaning my Lilia is going to be doing more damage. And obviously level 3, this increases a lot. So what you want to have, you want to have that kind of methodology. You want to have your supports have skills that benefit. Another example of this, I'm just going to use her as an example. I don't really have a character to show you the DPS equivalent to this, but say for example, you had a character that when you get hit, you get a buff on that DPS character for whatever reason. I'm just using an example. I'm not saying this character exists. I'm just trying to explain the logic of team building. But say for example, you have a buff. You get a buff whenever you're hit as a DPS, and that might give you like a 10% damage boost or whatever, for whatever reason. A character like Voyager would be a really good support for that, because basically just meaning you have a counter skill on all your allies, and when that character gets hit, they get a 10% damage buff, but the enemy will also take a bit of damage back. That's just like, I'm not saying that's an example that's in the game currently, but that's kind of the methodology you want to have for building your teams. You don't necessarily want to have like, oh, damage, support, whatever. Anyways, that's how you kind of do things. You just want to choose 2 healers as well. They're not super important in terms of specific ones. Just use a good one. And that's kind of the logic of choosing characters. I kind of spent a lot of time on that. Sorry, I meant to go into other things first. Now, let's actually get to the currency thing. So farming those 2 currencies, what do you want to do? Pretty simple. The first thing and the number 1 priority is going to be making sure your wilderness is upgraded. I've done a video on this before. I've explained this. As you can see, mine isn't even fully upgraded, and we are getting a ton of resources just from claiming that every single day. It's really, really strong, and you want to be doing it because it gives you a shitload of resources. Because now I should be able to come in here and I can upgrade once. My resource cost is very, very high because I'm getting to higher levels, but you want to be doing that. You want to make sure that's upgraded. That's your number 1 priority. The second thing you want to be doing, the next order down of making sure you don't waste your stamina, is currently anytime there is an event up and there's an event shop, you want to be going into the event shop and you want to be grinding at this. The currencies you can get from here are going to be things like these. You do want to prioritize farming the higher rarity stuff first, make sure you're doing that, and then probably get these a bit later. But if you're a new player, honestly, you can just farm these materials through here if you want to. It doesn't take very long, it's not very hard to do. Basically, the way you do this is you just go as far as you can into a combat stage at the highest difficulty, and then you'll get these coins which you can spend in the shop. And this is basically just going to give you a shitload of the 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝙉𝘿, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, 𝙀𝙓𝙃𝙃𝙃, such a stupid name, and dust. Basically, it's a lot. It's like 480k of like each one, which is enough to take a character. Enough, I believe, to take him from Insight 1 almost to Insight 3, almost. But it's enough to get a character essentially fully built, and maybe a couple of them too, or at least built to a level where you can use them more efficiently in the end game. So it's actually really good. The second source is going to be through the battle pass. You're going to get a lot of the currency for doing this. Even on the free track, there's going to be a lot of things you're going to get and resources that are help. Then after all that, yes, then you can go into your resource grinding stages, sorry, not that, and then start grinding those things there. And obviously if you have leftover stamina in the day, feel free to do so as well. When you first start out the game, there are things I would recommend prioritizing more, like making sure you do your 2 daily clears of that. Getting these to upgrade your wilderness is very important early on. And then farming things like your upgrade materials and just story completion, I would say, are more important things. Or if there's an event up, spending your stamina into the event to get that currency to get the things you need. Basically what I'm saying is priority order is upgrading your wilderness, making sure that's built, because that's going to be a lot of passive currency per day. Next thing down the order priority list is focus on doing the current event, because the events usually will have a lot of resources you can grab. And then finally, after all that, you've claimed all your free resource rewards. Then if you still need more, then you can farm those resource stages. But make sure you're going through, like checking, like for example, tasks. You get a lot of currency for doing these acts, for just doing different things, for the things you might need. So maybe go through and try and complete a couple of these. Basically, the takeaway, what I'm trying to say, there are things you should be doing to get these 2 currencies before coming in here when you're first starting out the game. You'll get a lot of those 2 currencies for upgrading your characters. Alright, next, let's talk about the second thing of upgrade materials. So I'm just going to come down here, I'm going to go to Insight. These materials here are the upgrade materials you need to raise your Ascension gap. These things, you'll get a ton of, depending on what ones of the character, but there'll be certain ones where you get these warehouse delicate insight caches, these boxes here. These are essentially material selection things. So you'll get a bunch of these throughout rewards, and they'll basically allow you to claim a material. Piece of advice I have for these is figure out what characters you want to use. Do not waste those boxes on characters you don't know if you're going to end up wanting to use them or not. So my suggestion is, if you're a new player, just play around with different characters in the early game, wait and figure out what you want to build, and then use those boxes. But the reason being is they're very valuable. Like getting purple materials is it's really easy. You can take characters sometimes from Insight 0 to Insight 2 very easily with those materials. Like I did that with my Iliad, like basically day 1 I had her at Insight level 2, level 50. And you want to save those for the characters that you actually want to use them on, just to help grinding a little bit faster. After that, you can follow the crafting guide video I made. If you want to check that out, there's a link in the description below. You can use that to figure out where to farm the rest of those resources once you need them. But basically the main takeaway of today's video is you want to be using this event currently to effectively farm up a character from very low. If their Ascension materials are here, you can grab those. You've got the 𝙀𝙓𝙃𝙃𝙃, the dust. Everything you pretty much need for quite a few of the characters is going to be here. And you can very easily take a character you want right from basically day 1 or day 2, from Insight 0 to Insight 2 level 50 with very, very little difficulty. So yeah, basically take advantage of that right now if you can, because honestly, it's very, very good. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. It was mainly just like discussing the different ways to upgrade really quickly from day 1, and what to kind of like not waste. Because I see a lot of people making this mistake where they come into, they like see the resources, they're like, oh, I don't have enough dust or enough 𝙀𝙓𝙃𝙃, I'm going to go farm the resource stage. If you're early in the game, please don't do this. The reason being is, like I said, there's so many different sources for how you can get this currency without having to spend your stamina. And if you do want to spend your stamina, please do it in the event. Do not farm the resource stages. You are going to be wasting a lot of stamina. Like the amount of stamina it takes to get the amount of what resources you get from the event, as opposed to the same amount of stamina spent in the resource stages, is way, way, way lower in the resource stages. Make sure if you're going to spend your stamina on anything, make sure it's in the event at the moment. Anyways, guys, that's kind of it for the video. Hopefully that helps people that are newer to the game or in the mid stages of the game, because you definitely want to be making sure you're spending your stamina correctly. Anyways, guys, hopefully you all enjoyed. I'll see you guys in my video another time. Don't forget to subscribe. Help me get to 1,000 subs. Anyways, bye, guys.
After all, Elio didn't put it in the script. Why would it matter?
Bon,